So on the flip side, RBC says that many Canadians are still struggling to keep up with rising costs. So they did a poll, and 48% of respondents say that they can no longer maintain their standard of living or won't be able to get ahead financially. So 50% said they've dipped into their emergency fund or retirement savings to pay bills. So is this rate cut enough to ease the pressure, or is the struggle still far from over? Are we going to start to see those Mercedes dealerships start to fill up with, now that we've had this 25% or 0.25 rate cut?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's it depends on really who they're polling, right? Are they polling people that have fixed rate mortgages from 3 years ago and nothing really has changed for them? And will a quarter point Bank of Canada rate reduction even impact that person until maybe renewal, right? So I guess there's like a broader scope there on, who these Canadians are and who they're polling, and are they all variable rate mortgage holders? Are they even mortgage holders at all? So if they're renting right now, how does a quarter point reduction in the overnight lending rate even impact them, right? So
yeah, for sure.
I think
Vaughn,
that
what's your take?
I tend to agree with RBC. I think RBC is got the forecast, similar forecast to me, with the overnight rate going down to 2% by the end of the year. And this is kind of, what I'm sensing, what I'm feeling from the marketplace is that there's still some struggle to go. Unfortunately, I want to see a future that's all, get the real estate market moving again, specifically, and get money back into people's pocket. But we still have high prices. So yeah, we're not where we were in for the last decade in terms of mortgage rates. We're still quite high for fixed rates and variable rates. I've noticed the variable rate discounts have dried up as well. Tom's got some good points about who are they polling. I don't know if you heard Donald Trump's opinions on polling and pollsters, but he doesn't put much credence into it. And I could see that. My phone didn't ring. They didn't ask me how
I rang. I just didn't pick it up.
Well, yeah. And so who does pick it up? Maybe they did call everybody, and who's got the time
lonely
to pick
people?
People, the squeaky wheel, right? Are they going to get the grace? I don't know. Probably not. We're not basing economic decisions on who we polled, but it's definitely interesting because the cost of goods are still up, and I don't think that media covers it enough. I don't think that we talk about it enough. Is that sure, inflation is cooled, but it's not the time to throw a parade about it at this point. We need other solutions. We need cheaper energy, and we need cheaper cost of goods in order to bring everything back in line to what we're used to. Let's say, 2017, 2018, pre-pandemic, where we had money in our pockets, we had low interest rates, and the cost of goods were down.
Yeah, I don't see a quarter point making a huge difference for people who are struggling, week to week or paycheck to paycheck. How many of those people are going to be mortgage holders? How many are going to be variable rate mortgage holders where this would have an immediate impact? But the Bank of Canada is trying to stick a landing here where we don't, speed up the economy too much by reducing the interest rates. And so trying to play this correctly is going to be a bit of a circus act here, I think.
Well, especially with that GST holiday, right? You throw in something new to the mix, and because it's encouraged spending, and I think that they've seen that, like restaurants and bars and stuff. And I mean, so that's good for the economy to get support to those industries. But where is it going to shake out with the new president, with all these little changes? It's going to be interesting next few months. I guess we find out more about tariffs as early as Monday.
Saturday, February 1st.
Well, Saturday's Feb 1, but Trump will definitely tweet on the Saturday, but will there be new policy over the weekend in the States? Do they?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that.
We'll see. I mean,
it's
one other thing that. Go ahead, Tom.
It's funny. He uses it as a negotiating tactic, right? And again, I had a conversation just the other day or yesterday about how he was going to send all the illegal immigrants back to Colombia, and Colombia was like, no, we don't want them. Keep them there. And
They refused.
And
They
then
wouldn't
Trump said, fine, we'll put a 25% tariff on you. And then they're like, hey, we'll send a plane out there to go pick them up. Don't worry about it. Don't be sending.
We'll be there in 20 minutes.
And we'll raise it to 50% if you don't comply within a week or something like that.
I just don't think he's thought this really through, right? Like, I think his big. So he's like, well, look, we're trying to get American jobs back again. If you don't want those tariffs, then start building factories down here and start, employing people down here. And everybody knows that's not just overnight that you just all of a sudden put up a factory and have workers and change the logistics of how certain things run, right? So, and the tariff is going to be put on place on the buyer. It's not us who's selling it, right? So it's going to impact their costs down south, and for how long? Like, it could be short term, 6 months until maybe they find another supplier. But a lot of these suppliers have contracts with Canadian companies, right? It's not like you could just say all of a sudden, hey, look, we're not buying your steel anymore, or we're not buying your lumber anymore. We're going to go to this new company that's now in the U.S. That's right. So I think he's trying to scare a lot of people, and I hope I'm right that he's trying to scare a lot of people, but we'll see.
You mean you hope you're right, and that he's not actually planning on pulling the trigger or executing these harebrained schemes?
Yeah.
I mean, his advisors.
And then what happens if he doesn't, right? If he doesn't put the tariff on, then everyone's going to be cocking eyebrows and be like, how much is this really true? Right?
Is he crying wolf?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Like you did change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America already, but it's,
I'm like, you couldn't make this stuff up,
No, you can't, right? So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I can't wait till February 1st comes and goes, just so that way we can, all this weekend, take a sign of relief, right? And just be like, this guy's just full of himself, and he doesn't really think things through before he talks.
Well, it's the American consumer that's paying the tariff, right? It makes the Canadian goods less attractive, but it's not the Canadian government that pays the tariff. It's the American consumer buying that Canadian good that makes, and that cost is 100% passed on to the consumer. So they either pay for that Canadian good with the tariff, or buy an American good, which would be equally as expensive, or you go to another source outside of. So if, say, you're buying
which
now
may
Venezuelan
not even be
oil,
up, right?
That's not stable. Is the product is good? Is the infrastructure is good? Do they have it set up where they can get it? It creates all sorts of problems for the U.S. consumer, the U.S. industries as well. So I can't see it going on forever. I think he's going to do something similar to, I just don't think he's got the same hammer that he has with Colombia, right? So Colombia is saying that, we're not taking our people. Well, we're going to put 25% tariffs on. That's like, you don't do this, then we're going to do that. Okay, you're going to do it. We're not going to put the tariffs on.
He's a bully.
There's no Canadian situation like that right now.
No.
Yeah.
No, and his advisors are already on the record for saying that, specifically with Canadian automobile manufacturing, that there's no replacement for it in the U.S., that the U.S. citizens would just be forced to pay more for Canadian, because we'd still be underpriced compared to other countries, but they're just going to have to pay 25% more. So they're advising against it. So I think that we'll see a real rolled back version of tariffs if we see the tariffs. It's contingent upon border security and stuff. So if we make a promise that, or even just a statement, we fixed the border security, then it sort of gives him permission to move away from it. He can say, look, I won what I wanted to win. Canada has increased their border security. I've done what I said. Right. So that he can move away from the tariff conversation about Canada. With Colombia, I don't know. We spend a lot of time doing research just on the Canadian market. You think I'm going to be a foreign market expert on top of that, as well as a
You got this, Vaughn.
I mean, come on.
Vaughn's our Colombian foreign correspondent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
All
the
right.
podcast is going to pay to send me down there.
Okay, I got to change the topic here. So Donald Trump also just made a bold statement about interest rates, saying when he's president, he'll demand an immediate drop to the federal rates. And not just in the US, he thinks rates should fall worldwide. Because a statement like this actually influence mortgage rates here in Canada. What do you think it means here in Canada? And what does it mean for homeowners and potential home buyers of properties?
Well, I don't think Trump really has, he can yell and scream as much as he wants to have interest rates come down, but it's not really up to him whether the Fed Reserve reduces rates or not. So, but I would love to see the American for the overnight lending rate from the Fed Reserve come down for sure. Because right now, if you look at it, we're at 3%. They're at 4.25%, right? So if you're going to buy, if you're going to be buying bonds here in Canada, would you rather buy them at, let's say, 3%, or would you rather buy them at 4.25% in the U.S., right? So if you're buying them more in the U.S., guess what's happening? The dollar is more attractive in the U.S. There's more investment coming into the U.S., right? So once we start seeing that the Fed and the overnight lending rates are closer in line with each other, maybe we'll start seeing some of those investments coming back into Canada, and once we start seeing more purchases into our bonds, then again that's going to stimulate the economy, and that goes back to our first point where I don't understand why they just announced today that they're going to be pausing on what did you say, economic
quantitative tightening.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So it just seems weird. I just don't know. Again, I'm not an expert in the field. I'm not with the Bank of Canada, and
we're not experts, Tom, on the economic side of it, but on this podcast we pretend to be. So just let it fly. Have a good time. Nobody's holding us.
I shouldn't say we. I should just say I'm not an expert. I'm sorry to bring you guys down with me.
No, I mean you need a specific degree in economics to be considered an expert, and I think we have business degrees, but not specifically in economics. So we just go ahead and give our predictions here, and I don't think that we have a mailbag, where we get letters that people. If they have a
written letters,
so far,
postcards.
Nothing yet. So,
but so I mean, he's also threatened about removing Jerome Powell as the Federal Reserve chief. I forget his exact title, but removing him, and then like he's doing in other places, he's putting his people in charge there, which could essentially he could then pull that lever, and like I told you to. Which I think is very dangerous, that it's not independent of the government.
Trump called him a putter or a golfer who couldn't putt. Now, Trump appointed Powell, and Powell also has said recently that it would be illegal for him to be fired by the president. But you're right. It definitely opens up a conversation of what happens if he does. So as far as we can understand, the leader of a country doesn't affect mortgage rates, doesn't get to play around with policy rates, and fixed rates are based off bond yields. So we don't even know the lever that you'd have to pull because it's never really been done in that in that regard. And Powell's saying, well, you can't tell me what to do or fire me. So
you can't fire me.
Like it's from an economic financial perspective, I haven't seen anything like this.
Well, and it's important for it to not be influenced, right? Like it's the most important currency in the world. And the fact that it is stable and it's a pillar, it makes the world go round essentially right now. If all of a sudden it's not as safe, that throws everything into turmoil. I mean, theoretically, lower interest, the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates would lower our interest rates here in Canada. but it also is going to make things artificially more expensive as people spend more and inflation goes up. So I don't think it's a great look. It's not something that you should be saying that we're going to essentially destabilize the currency in any way, especially the U.S. currency. I just don't think it's a smart move.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. And it's certainly unprecedented to even hear about, the interest from a government head to get involved on that level, way out of his league.
Yeah. So I've got one more topic for you guys. So let's see here. So for years, we've been talking about Canada's housing crisis and the need for more homes, but new data from Oxford Economics just flipped the script. So with the projected population decline for the first time since Confederation in 1867, experts are saying that we might need 500,000 fewer homes by 2035 than originally thought. Is this a game changer? Doesn't matter? Is this allowing us to take a breath? Are we still headed for trouble? Vaughn, what's your take on that?
Well, I'll go right ahead and get as weird with it as I can. By 2050, the global population is expected to turn around and stop growing. So, there's theories there. But if we really
just wait for 2050.
Well, hopefully we're not that far away from it. We'll actually get to measure that stat and see if it goes that way. But if global warming and climate change is expected to be as destructive, as some of the predictions are in those warmer parts of the world, even if there's a population decline somewhat, I could see Canada, if Canada warms up a little bit, we'll get bigger growing conditions, and we'll sort of undoubtedly take on more and more people from other parts of the world that are uninhabitable to come here and work and hopefully grow vegetables and agriculture, and Canada could be a completely different country. So if you go on that weird line, then you would say no, the population will not decline. We should keep building. Build now, ask questions later.
We just got to get rid of this pesky winter, is what you're saying.
Well, we won't be doing
the Canadian Shield as well, which makes it a little bit difficult to grow.
A little bit difficult to build up there.
Yeah.
Tom, what do you think?
And grow. I just think that whenever it comes to population and it comes to housing, I think that they're just headlines, right? It always seems like whatever makes the front page, right? So I really don't have an opinion on it. To tell you the truth, I don't even know, how much truth is it to what they're trying to say as opposed to what their predictions are, right? You can go back 10 years from now or 10 years ago, and building housing was always an issue, right? And even the projections back then about how we won't have enough housings for the population, but that's going to take 10 years just for us to catch up. So sure. For them to be able to predict down the road that we won't have we'll have too many housing for the population.
Well, that we'll need 500. We won't need to build that additional 500,000 houses.
But we're still playing catch up right now, right? So why don't we talk about that? Why don't we talk about that once we're at once we've caught up and we're like, okay, now we've built too many, right?
And we're playing catch up while our population is supported primarily by immigration, right? So Canadians aren't reproducing at any kind of substantial rate to repopulate our country. So we could argue already that we're on a population decline if not supported by immigration, and we're still in this housing crisis. So I would say keep building. We're never going to be able to outbuild this problem as far as I can see.
And there's the option of becoming the 51st state and bring some people from the U.S. up here if we had to.
Well, then we need to build even more.
Yeah, we need to keep building. Essentially, I don't see a situation where it's like, okay, we've solved this. We're not inviting as many people in. The population is declining. I still think we need to keep building infrastructure. The services need to be there. Let's have, world-class infrastructure, transportation, housing. Let's start to expand and make this a livable city for more and more people. And then we can get back to inviting more people into the country, because we need, as you guys both mentioned, birth rates are declining here in Canada. We're not growing enough of our own people. We need those people to come in and pay for our expensive social services that we have. So I see that as the future. I don't see how they stop building.
Yeah, I think people coming over here. Oh yeah, go on.
No, go ahead.
I think people coming over here don't realize how expensive it is, and it's the people that are already here. That's why the birth rate's declining, because they're like, man, it's too expensive to be having 2+ kids anymore, right?
Yeah,
but, that was just a quick little comment.
Let's continue building. I think we're all in agreement. Like 500,000 fewer homes. That's amazing. That gives us a little bit of a breath. But let's keep up the construction. Let's keep that going. We can do one more. We can talk about the stress test maybe and how that might affect things, or maybe let's save that for next time. You guys have anything you want to add before we go?
No, we're 42 minutes in. Tom, it was great to have you on. We'll have to do this again. It's always fun to have a third host on the show too. So
that's awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's do it again soon, Tom, and see you next time on the Mortgage People podcast. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, and remember to like and comment, and we will see you next time.